everybody, Trinity here with Pure Project. Welcome you guys to our very first edition of Pure Truths. Today joining us we have Miss Tatianah Green.
Hey.
Thank you for coming, Tati. Tatianah is a multimedia content creator and editor with a passion for writing. In 2012, she launched her blog, blissforsingles.com, which stands for Black Love and Inspiration for Saved Singles, to encourage singles in faith and love. She is also a contributing writer for several other websites, such as Black and Married with Kids and The Wire Hanger by Winnie. She recently, which is so outstanding, she published her first book titled Journey to 30, A Single Woman's Guideline to Living Unapologetically Without Deadlines. As she embraces her 30s, Tatianah continues to work, plays, and lives unapologetically for Christ in Chicago. Yay. How do you find the time with all that?
It's a lot, trust me, but I love using a planner so that I can keep organized. I just write out my goals or write out what I have to do ahead of time. Sometimes I get double booked, but it happens. I just try to work it out.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So when you think of all the influences or distractions that are out there out of these three, being pure in body, pure in spirit, and pure in heart, which ones do you feel that our generation struggles with the most?
I think pure in heart would be the biggest area where our generation struggles with, is because there's so many things out here in this world that we experience that really influence the heart. We go out in the world, we're born into sin, shaped in iniquity. So we already have that thing going on. And then we have our nurture, which is what we're raised by, whether they be our parents or our caregivers or whatever situation we grew up in. All those things affect our heart. And then we get outside of the home. We have those outside factors, the media, social pressures, just the environment itself. Even if you grew up in a nice area, you can still be affected in your heart by those things. So the enemy is constantly throwing seeds of everything bad, to get in our hearts. And when it stays there, when we don't really give what we have to God, it's like, man, it's just staying there in that soil, and then it blossoms into this awful mess that we see in our behaviors, in our thoughts, in how we react to others, how we treat each other. So where the heart is comes the issues of life. That's what the word says. So it's like we have a lot of issues in here, and if we don't seek God about purifying our hearts, like it says in his word, we're going to have a lot of junk in there.
So why do you feel that we just have so many issues with our hearts? Or why we aren't guarding our hearts as the word says that we should?
Because this world tells us to be open with our heart to all the wrong things. Like it says, follow your heart. And I know that sounds so cute. It's so Disney, right? We're like, oh, follow your heart. Let your heart guide you. But the word says that the heart is deceitfully wicked.
Right.
So I don't know where they told us to do that, this they and us. Like there are two worlds here. So as for believers, we have to understand there's a difference between how the world defines love and how they define purity, and the way that God defines love and he defines purity. So our hearts, when we follow our hearts, we're really following our emotions. Yeah. We're really going after our flesh. And the Bible says we should be led by our spirit. So if we don't have that understanding, of course we're going to get in our feelings or our fifis or whatever. Because we're just like, oh, we're just trying to be like, we want to be loved. We want all these things. And then we just get caught up in the world's ways. So it can be very tricky. But if we really know the truth about God's word, about what he says about those specific things, and clear the air about that stuff, we can really guard our hearts in that way.
That's true. I heard you talk about and touch on the topic of purity. So with that and purity, why do you feel that topic has just become so unpopular these days?
Because for some reason, it just exploded with all this craziness. There's lust everywhere, sex is everywhere, impurity is everywhere. Like you can't even see a regular commercial for food without it talking about impure stuff or sex or something like that. I'm like, dang, why? I just wanna buy a cheeseburger. I don't want to think about sex because of a cheeseburger. Like to me that's so lame, first of all, because it's like sex sells. We know that. It's easy. that even happens in the church, technically, in so many ways. But it's like, okay, that's the easy way out. Because you can get everything flowing and going by using that tactic. However, if we just really like see the message behind it, it's like, guys, we don't have to go this way. We don't have to like, pursue this awful thing because we don't really know what to do with it. This is fire that's in our lap. We don't know what to do with it. We're going to get burned because we don't know the truth of how to really react with these emotions. Like, and then the church is not really helping with that either. So God is raising up a number of people to speak out about purity, to speak about the truth, and to really bring some godly light on it, because we just out here confused in the church and outside the church. The church folks, the older folks don't want to talk about it. The parents, they can only do so much, because when we get out there, we be told the truth. They're like, what? Your parents don't know what's twerking, like, but the kids do. Why did 2-year-olds know how to do this? But it's crazy.
But so with these issues and things like that, have anything that you've struggled with personally at all?
Oh yeah. I struggled definitely with lust and perversion. At a young age, I was exposed to pornography, and it wasn't. I don't even know what it was at the time. It was just like, sex on TV or sex on the screen. And I was just like, okay, this is weird, but I like it. And then before I knew it, I was just doing all kind of stuff. Like it's a lot in the mind. For me, a lot of it was in the mind with lust and perversion. So I had that. I dealt with masturbation and just settling for less in my relationships. There was a situationship. There were times where I went too far with boyfriends, but I never went all the way, because I felt like God was keeping me, because He keeping me safe for my husband and protected for my husband, because I'm abstinent, and I don't care. I don't care that I'm abstinent and that people, whatever, But that whole thing that I went through is like, man, the Holy Spirit is real, because there's so many times where I could have gone further, either by myself or with a man, and God's conviction on me was like, no, we're not going here anymore. We're not going to do this anymore. Be delivered. And so it's like, where did this come from? So I had to, like, at some point, I was reading one book, and it was by Joshua Harris. It's a sex book, but it's about lust. And he was talking about the truth about lust and where it comes from, how it affects men and women, and how it's not just all about guys and their obsession with sex. Only this thing can affect women too.
Yeah, that's true.
And it can also affect women in the church. And recently I've been realizing that other women go through these things. And it may not be them being affected visually, where they've seen something, or they've been sexually harassed, like I have when I was like in 3rd grade. But some people have physically been violated, and that is bothersome, because not only there's the physical violation, there's also the spiritual violation. And again, that plants stuff in the heart, because there's rejection attached to that. There's abandonment, because you're like, well, why did this happen to me, Lord? Well, why did this happen here? No one protected me. And then you're carrying that burden on you. And so it's a number of things that the enemy will try to attach to you. And then on top of that, the shame. I was ashamed for a long time, because I was like, this is literally a secret sin. This lust, perversion, masturbation, secret sex, pornography, homosexuality, all that stuff is secret sin. And if you don't address that, and you don't bring that to God's light and confess your sins unto one another in a safe space with people you can trust, you'll be continuously in that space. And God is trying to break you out, but the devil keeps putting that shame and condemnation on you. But the word says that there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. I'm telling you, Trinity, it's hard. It's hard to say that, like, oh yeah, I'm free. And then you go out and you get tested, and then the enemy's like, no, you're not free. I still got you. I'm still putting this stuff on you. And you're like, you're trying to get out. But God is there all the time. And at some point, we're going to reach a breaking point in our personal journeys where we have to say enough is enough. God works with all of us differently. So I'm grateful that He broke me out of those things. Like, those things I am disgusted with now, because it's like, I'm not necessarily ashamed of those things, because I want other people to get free. You know what I mean? So at this point, it's like, look, everybody has a past.
Right.
This is what I've been through. It's not horrible. It's something I'm not necessarily happy with, but I don't have regrets because you know what? God is using me for something. And there's a truth that needs to come to light about what we're dealing with in the church and about the purity about sex, because sex has been taken out of God's definition and into this ungodly definition that we see today. And that's why it's so jacked up with purity and whatnot.
Thank you for your transparency with that, because obviously people need to hear that. Now, you said that you were able to break through. For our viewers or somebody that may be dealing with certain things and they're trying to get their breakthrough, what type of advice or suggestions would you give them?
You have to feed your spirit with the right things. If you're constantly dealing with sex on the brain, or you just have an issue with masturbation, or you have an issue with being in people's DMs trying to get a booty call, let's keep it real, you need to change up what you're receiving. We have our eye gates, our ear gates, our mouth gates. What are we speaking? What are we seeing? What are we hearing? So if you're constantly seeing programs and TV and movies that are doing these things that you don't want to do, why are you entertaining that? Jesus said to cut off those things. It may not be a limb. He didn't mean that literally. He meant those triggers that are gonna, that are external, that are going to get you to sin. That's the thing. He wants to keep us focused on him. And when we're focused on him, it's hard to be tempted. I mean, if you think about what God has been through, what he sent his son for us, and Jesus sent, he created the example by living out in obedience to God, and he didn't sin. He was tempted with everything. So he knows exactly how we feel when we're in the bed and we're lonely and we want a man or we want a woman and we just don't know what to do with ourselves, and we have all these hormones and these emotions and these feelings, and he's like, cast all your cares on me. And so there's that aspect, and then there's another practical aspect too, because God gives us people to hold us accountable. David had Jonathan, Naomi, and Ruth. It was Ruth. And so, and other people too in the Bible, for example. So it's like you can have accountability where you can keep it real, because like I said before, we've all been through things. And so you can call up a friend or text someone who you trust, who you have accountability to, and be like, hey, I'm feeling some kind of way, help me, pray for me, get me out of this situation before I do something I don't want to do. Because at the end of the day, you want to be closer to Christ. You want to be like Christ. This is our goal at the end of the day. And even in our singleness, even when we're married, purity should be a lifelong situation, a lifelong goal. It's not just, you're single and you're just doing your thing. Like, this goes beyond that, because these issues are going to come up in marriage. And so you have to attack the enemy at the source. And so that comes with practice, that comes with knowing who you are in God, getting deliverance for real from those things and walking in that deliverance, not going back, not looking back. And even when you fall, God is married to the backslider. There were times where I backslid too. It's a process. It's a process. So don't beat yourself up. I just learned this from Mandisa. She has a new song out called Unfinished, and it's amazing. And she's talking about how God isn't through with her yet, making her a masterpiece. And she was saying in her story behind the song was that sometimes you fall and God is going to pick you back up. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. The point is you get back up every time. So God is not ashamed of us. He's not mad at us. He just wants us to come to him, and he'll take care of the rest.
That's very good. Okay, so switching gears.
All right.
So what do you feel your purpose in life is?
I feel my purpose in life in part of giving God glory with the unique things that he's given me, like with my unique interests, my unique talents and abilities. I just love encouraging people, and I really love helping out the singles. That's something I love to do. I do it for free through my blog. So I'm like, I don't have to get paid to do Bliss, because that's something I'll do all the time. When there's ever a relationship, segment on TV, I'm watching it. Or I'm reading somebody's blog, or I'm reading somebody's book. I have most books in my personal library are about relationships. So I think there's some purpose in there. But I think most of my purpose relates to combating the issue of divorce and infidelity, second marriage, and stuff like that, because I was born in a family. My parents were married, but they both came from broken homes. They both had parents who divorced due to infidelity. They both had parents who remarried. They both had step-parent issues. They had those issues in our family. So my parents divorced. There was infidelity in my family. So I'm like, God, what's the pattern here? It got to the point where I knew of it naturally, but I didn't know of it spiritually. It was to the point I was at U of I Chicago, and I wanted to go into psychology because I wanted to understand why this stuff was happening in my family. But thank God, he turned my direction to communications because I love media. I love doing this kind of stuff, like writing and doing videos and stuff like that. But yeah, I was so into that psychology thing because I wanted to like solve problems. And a lot of people who go into that field, they see it because they grew up in that area or they see the problem, and that's okay. If you see that and you want to solve your problem in that way. But God was leading me in area of ministry. Okay. And in 2008, he gave me Bliss for Singles. And it was so unique because it was like Black love and inspiration for saved singles. Bliss, like what? Like this is great. And it just felt, there was a peace about it. So I felt really good. And I launched the blog in 2012 after I went to grad school and worked on a project. And I was like, might as well launch the blog then. So I might as well go ahead and go forward. So since then, God has opened so many opportunities for me to write for other websites and meet so many people and interview great people about singleness, dating, relationships. And it's for all Christians, really. I just like to focus on the content, somewhat angle it for the Black community, because the Black church in particular, the Black church, we do have unique issues. Like we have a predominantly women in our ministries, in our churches, and so where are the men? So this is a unique challenge for our community that I want to help address and just talk about, and also celebrate Black love because our mainstream media does not celebrate that. So I want to look at it from a Christian perspective or a faith-based perspective on everyday issues that we see. From memes to couples alerts to celebrities and all that other stuff.
Nice. So with your purpose, did you experience any adversity in your pursuit of it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I dealt with a lot. Like I had so much personally that I went through. Spiritually, I dealt with a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of self-righteousness, a lot of pride. God had to humble me so many times, and he's still working on me to understand that I don't know everything and I don't have to know everything. I just trying to share what I know and not get so caught up in trying to be right all the time, but be in a place of learning and receiving what he has to say through me to other people. I think like a lot of it is just like not overthinking and just going through with it. Because I think a lot of us can get kind of caught up in like, Lord, what is my purpose? And we get so frustrated because we don't know what it is. And I know what that feeling is like. And if you just be cool, be easy, just take some time and just seek him, he'll show you. And the thing about God is he's so sovereign and he knows so much. He knows so much about us, and he's like, you're not ready for everything yet. So I'm gonna give you just a little bit, get a little preview. So as far as this goes, my purpose goes in 2017, it's just to encourage singles, empower singles, and celebrate living in this life, because we need to live. I mean, people, this is where I get excited. Because like singles be acting like they don't have a life because they're single. I'm like, no, like you can be doing whatever it is you feel like you want to do in God's context. And just be. Like I don't understand like people at home like I don't have anything to do. I'm like, go do something. Take yourself out. Go on what I like to call me dates or self-care dates. And that's the thing, we need to look at, you know, how we take care of ourselves, how we have our relationship with God and so forth.
So why do you feel it's important for individuals to discover their purpose while they are here existing on this earth?
It's so important because God is invested in us,
Yeah.
and he knows us, and he made us uniquely. He made each and every one of us with an identity that's none other. Like, there's only one me, there's only one you, there's only one person who's watching this. And it's like, you have a purpose. It may not be this huge thing where you have your name in lights and you're on a stage and everybody knows your name. Your very purpose might be for you to do something so small that it impacts somebody else's life, and that person impacts 10 other people's lives. You could be a catalyst, you can be a star, or you can give birth to a star. That's my theory on it. So I think it's important that people know that purpose so that they can impact and have a full life. Because sometimes we get so dissatisfied and we try to find everything else to fill that void of lacking purpose. So we're like, oh, I'll pursue my passions. Your passions may not necessarily be your purpose. Or I'll go do this because it feels good. Your feelings are not necessarily your purpose. A lot of times, your purpose is not going to feel good. You be like, I don't want to feel this, Lord. Like, I'm in a place right now where God's pressing on me to do something, and I'm not exactly 100% comfortable with it, to be honest. But that's where the purpose is, and that's where the promise is. Because if we don't get that pressure that He puts on us, how can we really produce the fruit that He needs out of us? How can we really trust Him if everything's so easy? How can we really rely on Him and pray to Him if everything's so smooth and sailing and easy? So when Jesus was calling out to Peter to walk on the water in the midst of the sea, and he had to have faith. He had to know, like, hey, God has a purpose for me here. I'm going to walk this out despite what happens. So we all have something we have to do to contribute in some way, big or small.
Okay, so to the viewers, they don't have their purpose, not yet. Where do they start? What should they be doing?
You should definitely look at what you're good at and what people always compliment about you.
Okay.
Like, oh, you always cook so well, or oh, you're so encouraging, or oh, you know how to do this. What are you known for? And what do you want to be known for? And bring those things to the Lord and see how He responds to you. I think we get a little impatient because our generation's like, we want everything right away. We want this, that, and the other. But if you just take your time and be patient with God and just be like, Lord, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know I can do. This is what I think my gifts are. So where's the purpose in all this? And also, give it time and He'll show you, because He'll give you glimpses of your past too. Because He'll be like, look, remember when this happened? I remember interviewing my aunt in my book, and she was saying that her pastor said that your purpose oftentimes comes from your pain. So God might reveal something that happened to you in your past, and that pain might be the thing that can reveal to you part of your purpose. Like, that's where bliss comes from. It comes from the pain of my parents' divorce and me deciding that I didn't want that in my generation or in my siblings or in my friends. I remember saying that when I was like 13, like, I don't want this. I don't want this feeling, this divorce thing. So if he's showing you pain, if you remember a painful experience, that can be part of your purpose too. So your pain, your passion, those things that really, really press on you, things that you would do for free, for life, things that give God glory, all that can be comprised into your purpose. But seek Him about it, and He'll give you clarity.
Awesome. Okay, so we got to discuss the book.
Yes.
Journey to 30, a singles woman guide to living unapologetically without deadlines. The title. How did you come up with this?
Journey to 30, it came from, the first part, Journey to 30, came from that November 2015 when it was my sister's birthday, and I was writing in a card to her. I was giving her some minor advice about her 20s that I wish I knew at her age, because I was 29 at the time and she was 22 at the time. And so I was like, man, if I was 22 again, I would have did this, I would have did that, I would have did this. So it just popped into my head, Journey to 30. It's not an original concept, but it's something that I wanted to do. And I wanted to provide some inspiration for women who were going in that same direction, who are going towards 30, who may not be familiar with what to expect. Because I, at my age now, I definitely would have had kids. I definitely would have been married if it was my plan and my will. But thank God for God's will, right?
Right.
I wanted to be married at 25. I wanted to be done having kids by 30 because that's what I knew. And that's what my parents kind of put me on as far as that trajectory. Like, trajectory, excuse me. So I was like, yeah, you go to school, go to college, get your degree, get a good job, get paid, meet a man, get married, have kids. Boom.
And
what
everything's
else?
perfect.
What else happens after that? Nothing was explained to me. After 30, what happens after this age? Like, what if you don't have that?
Right.
And so a lot of women in our generation, are in that same situation. Like, oh, I don't have a man, or I'm in a relationship, or not married yet. What's going on? What's wrong with me? Is my biological clock ticking? The parents are bugging me. When are you getting married? When are you gonna have kids? When am I getting grandkids? I'm like, really? So we have all this societal pressure, and then we put pressure on ourselves because we feel like we're not doing something right, or we're not good enough, or we're failing because we haven't met this deadline that we allowed to come into our lives and get into our hearts, and causing us to doubt God's provision, causing us to doubt his plan for our lives. And that's where this book comes from. I want to give a guide to help women live unapologetically without these deadlines, because these deadlines are the things that are going to hold us from really living out our purpose, for really living for God, because we're so closed in to this one thing where we all know that God is unlimited. He's like, I'm out of this boundary. Why are you putting me in? I don't get it. It's like, don't do me. So I don't know anything about what it's like to be 30, right? So I wanted to interview 10 women of God, and they gave me some sound advice and wisdom about what it was like for them to turn 30. Some were excited, some were not so much excited. And we all talked about different subjects in life. So the first section of the book is your relationship with God. What does that look like, and what should you develop? Talking about your past, talking about purity, talking about your relationship one-on-one and your purpose. Then you have your relationship with yourself. What does that look like to take care of your physical health? Because these are our temples. We can't just be the sexually pure people. We have to also eat right and exercise and drink water and not treat our bodies bad, because these are the dwellings. This is the dwelling for our Holy Spirit. And then it's the self-care aspect, which is huge right now, because we all need to take care of ourselves. So what does that look like? So I interviewed one girl about that. And just getting to a place in the third section of the book where you're able to take care of other people. So if your relationship with God is in order and you have a better relationship with yourself, therefore you're able to help other people. And that's how it should be. And that wasn't always the order in my life, especially in my 20s. So that's why I felt like it was so important to have this book for the 20-year-olds, and even in those in their 30s, because sometimes we're just out here and we don't know. And we're like, God, we're in church every Sunday, but we're so broken and we're not whole. I want to help people get whole. And so the third section is for the people part, having a heart for service, understanding that service is more than just, feeding people and helping the homeless. It's creating a heart attitude of leadership that Jesus put on the earth when he was serving his disciples, when he was washing their feet and ministering to them, when he might have been tired, when he was praying for them when they were asleep. And so it's a blessing. I'm so glad that it came together. It's
it really was. I even read it myself, and it was definitely good. I got some advice from some of those women that you had in the book. So can we expect any books from you in the near future? Any more?
I definitely want to write more books. I definitely want to write a book more about my personal life, and then I want to write something else towards the end when I get married or something like that. So someone told me I have at least 4 books in me. I'm like, that's a lot of writing. That's a lot of writing.
So how can our viewers, how can they purchase the book, and also how can they stay connected to you and all that you have going on?
Awesome. Well, the book is available on journeyto30book.com, so that's where you can find all the information about the book, and it's also available on Amazon. My publisher, November Media Publishing and Consulting Firm, is awesome, so they have a website as well. I think it's novembermedia.com, but you can get the books there, but most likely journeyto30book.com.
And then your website and social media handles, how can people stay connected to you?
Yes. So for me personally, and everything attached to Journey to 30, you can find me on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter at T for Trendsetter. We also have a Facebook page now for Journey to 30. So it's actually called Journey Through 30. And that's going to be the next project that I'm working on regarding this book. So now that it's out there, I kind of want to share what's going on past 30. So Journey Through 30 is going to be the YouTube vlog. So I'm on YouTube at T for Trendsetter as well. So you can see that in the coming months.
Okay, awesome. All right, so last thing, using one word, describe all three: your past, your present, and your future.
My past would be brokenness, my present, inspiration, and my future, greatness.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much again for stopping by to chat with us. We appreciate you. Thank you guys to our viewers for watching us. You can stay connected to us by stopping by the website at www.mypureproject.com. And until next time, may you continue to be pure in body, pure in spirit, and pure in heart.